Up, everybody? Welcome into another Talk Toomey Tuesday night.
We're hanging out with Toomey with Talk Toomey Podcast. This is David from Dead.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Talk Toomey. We got Cristian on the line. Well, not on the line. I'm used to doing these on the phone.
We're on the stream.
We're just recording right now. We'll post this on Thursday, so we can edit if we talk too bad about too many people, right?
Okay. Or if we give away that we're recording it on the day before or something.
Exactly. Well, man, I've thoroughly enjoyed the new album, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't speak Spanish, but it's just Hollywood E. Sycamore, correct?
Butcher it. Even if you don't like it, butcher it like that. It's fine.
No, I'm just talking about the name. I'm not talking about butchering the actual album. So it's just Hollywood E. Sycamore, correct?
Hollywood E. Sycamore, yes. Or Hollywood and Sycamore. It's just a cross street. It's a Hollywood cross street where a good friend of mine lives. Two good friends of mine live right there, and they help me, rehearse and get ready for the album, and they recorded on my album with me. So it felt like a cool artsy title. At first I thought, does this album need to have a cool catchy saying, or so much of the music was about my personal life. I figured, well, maybe I'll name it like my daughter's names together or something. But then I was like, no, that's thinking about it too much, It felt Hollywood E. Sycamore. That's where the music came to be, and it just felt like a artsy, original, genuine thing to do.
Now, kind of coming from the new metal heavy world and kind of transitioning into this type of stuff, man, how is that for you, kind of just branching out into something new, so new?
It's exciting musically. It's creatively exhilarating for sure. But from take into consideration everything I've done before, it's a little nerve-wracking, I ain't gonna lie. It's not a complete 180, but for sure I'm presenting something that's 180 degrees from where people might have heard me before. Everything's a lot more stripped down, even though Die Alone is a really stripped down song. There are some songs that have drums on them and stuff, but there's no distortion on the guitars.
Yeah.
I'm not screaming, It isn't headbanging music. This is vibe, feel music,
Yeah.
This is therapy music, if you will. And heavy music can be that as well.
Oh, absolutely. The how light this album is, this is something you could do in jazz clubs. You could do this type of music for the rest of your life, and not have to scream and yell and headbang. Is this kind of just a turn in your career, or is this just a kind of a side thing and the heavy album's coming next type stuff?
No, I think it's something that I'm going to focus on, for as long as I can. If I feel it's a very genuine side of me, that's always been there. I've always been a songwriter. I've always written on acoustic guitar, although in El Nino, I would take my songs to the band and we'd make them electric and things like that. And we did that on purpose. But purposely on this material, I'm leaving songs, just chord progressions, acoustic guitar, focusing on the vocal. And it would be cool for me to be able to do this, I mean, it's not something that I want to force on my fans. If they don't like it, they don't like it, and I won't force it on them. But, if they dig it, and the response I've been getting has been amazing. Will it be forever? I don't know. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy to ever dictate, anytime I'm ever posed a question, what are you going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I'm like, I don't know. In 2015, if somebody would have asked us, what are you going to do in 2020? Anything we would have answered would have been thrown out the window, dude.
Yeah, wearing masks and going to drive-ins to watch Metallica on the big screen was not in the cards.
Yeah, man. Isn't that interesting? Well, you know what? If you get a real PA at the drive-in, then I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm okay watching it on the big screen at a drive-in as long as the PA is real and it sounds real.
I heard a couple of shows, a couple of other podcasts that of dudes that went to the Metallica live show or the Metallica drive-in show, and they all came away saying it was a fun event. It was getting out of the house. Everyone, it was coming through everyone's car speakers and through a PA, so it was kind of coming from all around you.
Oh,
So it was everybody said they were having a good time.
That's an interesting approach to it.
Yeah.
Get it through your car speakers as well. That's cool.
So, in my knowledge of El Nino, you came into El Nino as the bass player, and then you switched over to being the vocalist. So, were you someone that always knew they could sing, or did you develop a voice over the years?
I had screamed in bands before, for sure, and I had sang here and there in other bands. When we first put El Nino together, the band that I had come from, I played bass and sang. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if that, attracted musicians to me from the scene. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it might have been cool to see a bass player that sings. And, I was a pretty rowdy musician, and I took pride in being awesome at my instrument, at least the bass. When I became a vocalist, it was like, oh, whoa, I didn't expect to, get a record deal as a vocalist. This is going to be challenging, but it's something that I always did. I sang in death metal bands, and the band that I was in before El Nino was, like a modern alternative metal band. And, I was on to trying different things already. I've always been a music slut, if you will. I love all kinds of music. I don't,
Right.
I'm not prejudiced to any one style. If a track is really, really awesome, I'm about listening to it, giving it a chance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The one thing about listening to Hollywood E Sycamore was the fact that I think that if you play this around anyone else's lady, like they're your lady now. Like it was I was like every time you would dip into that Spanish, and I was like, my wife's gone. She's not Christian.
No, you could dedicate the song to her, man. You should, and she'll feel the emotion through you.
Yeah. We'll see about that. The is this type of music stuff you've done, just on the side at the house, acoustic guitar around the house for years, or is this just an entirely new venture?
Well, when I was in the early years, when I was the main songwriter in El Nino, really, I wrote songs on acoustic. That's how I wrote a lot of the songs that you hear on the first two albums were written on acoustic guitar, just messing around, mostly chord progressions. That's why El Nino, in the first couple of albums, it was just, very simple riffs and chord progressions, basically is what dictated the style of at least the melodic approach to the guitars at the point. But it's always been a simplistic musical approach for me, writing on acoustic guitar, thinking of a melody. This is not something that's strange to me. I've done it on almost every single El Nino album. It's just that on the first two albums, I wrote more of the music. And then as we changed band members, we became more like a group writing thing. But I always tried to apply it here and there when I could. On some albums, I did it less than others and things like that. But I don't remember a time going back. I mean, it was acoustic guitar was like one of my first instruments. My mom taught me how to play acoustic guitar when I was in my teens. And then I kind of took drums seriously, and I didn't get as good as I wanted to. So I moved to guitar again, and then bass. And, it was something different. Instruments is something that I always played around with. And I guess maybe that's what gives me a very broad musical plate to kind of draw from, that I'm not scared to draw from. I mean, a lot of rock artists are scared to draw from other things that they might have a flavor for, but I just, I figured I'm at this stage in my career, at this age, I've done a lot of rock and roll. Let me do something that's really, really genuine. This is the way I wrote songs for El Nino. It's just that this is a very stripped down. Maybe it represents where I am today instead of where I was back then. But it's it's something that's not foreign to what I've done. And some people may even consider it slightly familiar to things in the past, but I think it's a different approach. I'm not trying to reinvent anything, but it's kind of like a different approach, I guess. It doesn't sound like the way Alice in Chains would do an Unplugged album, even though I'm inspired by Alice in Chains Unplugged. It doesn't sound like how a City and Color album, even though I'm inspired by artists like that as well. So it's just a different way to approach music. And in most of the interviews, I'm kind of like, in trying to figure out, when I ask the question, how did you get to that? Most of it keeps reflecting back to musical curiosity, just being curious as a musician and wanting to play different instruments, wanting to do different things, write in different genres. And obviously, my old band was a crossover band. We did heavy and light and rhythmic and, non-rhythmic and staccato and more circular grooves. So we were kind of all over the place. And I think in having done that in rock, making a very fluid acoustic album was important to me. I didn't want to have an all over the thing place,
Right.
You got like a ballad and then this and then a heavy song and then a moshi song and then a song you don't mosh. I wanted like a very fluid album. I've always admired artists, whether extremely brutal, because I listen to anything from death metal to Sade to instrumental music. So, I've always admired artists that could put together really fluid albums, not like, here's the one song, this one makes sense, this one doesn't. This one kind of makes sense, this one does, this one doesn't,
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be the guy that puts out the album that one song sounds like this, that song gets popular, people buy the album and are pissed because you've got 12 other tracks that sound nothing like that.
Well, you almost froze up there. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Just making sure. Sometimes the internet over here in rural California does what it wants,
Right? I was scared. We moved to like the rural in southern Indiana, and I was really just worried that I was going to have to get some sort of weird, space satellite internet. Luckily, we're still close enough to town.
Yeah, believe it or not, that's what we're on in this house. We're on satellite internet. It's working pretty. It's working.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay for right now.
Looks good. It's looking good. It's funny, and I do think we have actually something very similar, because looking at the El Nino timeline with Mark Rizzo leaving in 2003, did he leave to go to Soulfly, or did he leave and then get Soulfly?
Well, I think the Soulfly gig came natural out of the Roadrunner family.
Yeah.
Once Mark left, I imagine Roadrunner passed his name along to Max when he was looking for a guitar player, naturally so. And I mean,
the reason I bring it up, and I'm not trying to talk. Yeah, he's an amazing guitar player. The funny thing is I was in Primer 55 in 2003 when Bobby left to play bass in Soulfly. So that's kind of a parallel there.
Interesting. So you're kind of already in the circle there a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a tertiary member of the circle. Actually, we toured one of the last Primer tours I did. Mark opened for us, so as a solo band, his solo band opened.
Oh, okay. His like
the Mark Rizzo band or whatever. Yeah,
metal kind of thing.
Yeah. It was so funny, man. Every day I was crawling out to the van from just being hungover. And then Mark would just run by, gym shorts on, looking all buff. And I'm like, I just gave up. I was like, all right. It's too funny, man.
I mean, the touring lifestyle, different people do different things on tour,
Right.
And whatever is your thing that makes you feel normal, that's probably what you go into on tour,
Yeah.
And that's why, you got to be careful with addiction makes you feel normal. Then on tour, addiction could be bad, and things like that. But, if working out makes you feel normal on tour, it could just be challenging to do that because you're having to find a gym and things like that, but the people that are dedicated to it, for sure are able to do it nonstop.
Absolutely. Yeah. I went through phases, but I definitely was not in a workout phase at the time. Let's talk about recording this album, because I know it was recorded a little bit differently than most. It was recorded in high definition, to be listened to on my phone, by the way. But but you record high definition. How does one record
Well, I
in
mean,
high
I think
definition?
on headphones you could hear the audio file content if you're listening to the HD files, but it was definitely a different recording process than what I'm used to. The first album that I made with El Nino, and before El Nino, I had been making demos and stuff like that on tape. So I was used to recording to tape when I was a developing musician coming up in the scene. And then on digital tape, which was similar, you couldn't edit. You could just punch in and get better takes and punch in little sections and stuff like that. But eventually, I think somewhere around 2005, everything became strictly digital. Tape went away. Everything went into the box, mostly in Pro Tools and stuff like that. And I suppose the multi-tracking world became what it is now, where you get the drummer first, and then you get the bass player, and then you get the guitars, and then you put the vocals on it, and then you come back and you do little guitar overdubs and stuff like that. And that was mostly the formula followed that we know, that we hear on most rock albums, is that formula. But this was done a little bit different, where we played together. We didn't multi-track. There was four microphones used. There was two, a left and a right, in the band room. And then my guitar went in separately and my vocal mic went in separately. So there was 4 channels that we used to record the whole thing pretty much. And everybody played at once. Everybody performed at once. It was an extremely challenging album to make, but I think that musical curiosity is what makes it interesting as a musician, and what makes you feel like this is challenging, but I have to do this because this is going to teach me new things. It's going to make me be a better musician. It's going to help me understand music better. It's going to help me understand arrangement better. And it's going to help me understand my ability as a musician better. So it was challenging. I learned a lot. I was extremely inspired by the musicians that played on my album. 2 of my friends, and Oscar did the percussion, who played in El Nino. And it was different than anything I'd done. We also recorded in the highest sample rate possible, which is what kind of allows us to offer it as an audiophile CD. But overall, I think it was the chemistry of recording live, not multi-tracking, not forcing, but putting the musicians into a room and kind of forcing chemistry until the take was right, And we had David Chesky, who was one of the greatest piano players of our time, in the control room with Jeff Lanier, and they basically would tell us, that take was good, but do another one. I think that we did about 3 to 5 takes of each song, depending. Some songs we came in the first day, and it took the first day, believe it or not, it took like in the studio, even though we had rehearsed outside the studio, going into the studio and then setting up again and playing together again. It took like 6-7 hours of just playing together for the chemistry of everybody's individual vibe to come into play. So in other words, the bass player had put some passing tones into some of the chord progressions. That took a little bit for us to kind of like get our ears used to. And extremely challenging, but it's different. At first I thought, I'm making an acoustic album. It's going to be simple. And when I proposed it to Conrado and Steven, I was like, it's easy. This is easy, man. It's an acoustic album. And then even Conrado and Steven being amazing guitar players, they realized, dude, acoustic guitar is harder to play than electric guitar. You have to play cleaner.
Absolutely.
You have to play. You can't make mistakes. Any wrong rubbing of the finger on a string, you hear it. If something's out of tune, you hear it. The distortion doesn't mask anything up, So
Oh yeah.
it was something that I thought was going to be simple. And then we wound up realizing, fuck, this is really harder than we thought it was going to be. And this is as challenging as you could get, is going into studio and saying everyone's going to play acoustic and everyone's going to play at the same time. And there's going to be no multi-tracking. And you just got to do takes until everybody plays it right.
Yeah, and sometimes you can find magic in that too. Maybe a mess up actually sounds good. You never know.
For sure. And there are things on there, like, sometimes tempos shifted, and
those are fun.
there's a couple of notes on there that aren't, exactly on, and there's a couple of guitar things that are a little bit loose, and it's just the way music really is when you put the human element. And I think that's what David and Jeff were mostly concerned with, was the human element. Make it sound awesome, but have it be real and genuine. And a couple of times, we did a take, and on one song we couldn't get the arrangement right, and we were messing around with removing guitar, putting more guitar, or removing the bass, or does the violin play, does the violin not play, remove the percussion, put it back. And then by the time we got to like take 4, I think we had gotten it right, but David Chesky was just like, well, you guys are sounding good and it sounds great, but because you guys are having to focus so much, you're completely losing the vibe, and the chemistry's not there, and everybody. I guess what chemistry could be defined as is everybody's looseness being in sync with each other. So then when you got all the human elements from each musician, whether they be slight little imperfections and things like that, in sync with each other, then everything makes sense.
I agree with that 100%. Have you been able to play this out live anywhere yet? Or, did you do it pre-pandemic? Actually now I think you could probably get into a little jazz club or even a restaurant or something to play. Have you played anything like this yet? Live?
No, other than in my house, but at the studio with the guys when we rehearsed it for the album, stuff like that. I was supposed to have my first live show on September 11th, and I was supposed to start a tour on September 11th. But a couple months back, the tour was supposed to start in Texas, and when we realized that Texas was starting to peak and Texas was in the news and they started closing bars in Texas, my booking agent just said, look, it's just smarter to just move it now. So we moved everything from March 2021 to begin in March 2021. I'll probably start preparing around Christmas, the holiday time. I'll probably start putting rehearsals together. That way by March I can be ready to go. But I was hoping to be able to go and start in September. It's what we had planned, and just being patient, really. Venues will open and they'll allow us to play eventually. And if they don't eventually, once enough people are safe and not getting sick, even musicians and fans might get fed up and be like, oh, we don't care, open the venue, promote it.
It's getting close. It's getting very close.
Yeah.
Will your acoustic shows be completely just the solo material? Or are you planning on, acousticing up any of your old songs that you wrote?
I'm definitely going to do some El Nino songs. I'd say maybe like 4 or 5 El Nino songs.
Okay.
I'm going to do all my originals and also a couple of covers that are not on the album. But I'll do all the covers that are on the album. I'll do, the 2 El Nino songs that are on there. I'm also planning on doing a couple of other El Nino songs, but I want to leave them as a surprise. So at least there's a little bit of element of surprise in there. Having one album only, it could be exciting for a fan to come see the show because they can know what every song is going to be and expect to hear all the songs.
Right.
But it could also be like, the element of surprise is gone because you know what you're going to hear, you know, and you know that there isn't going to be other songs. So I'm going to try to make it as exciting as possible, you know. And my album is very, very deep, and it's definitely very deeply dug into emotion and things like that. So in between songs, I want to tell jokes and make people smile.
Right.
Also, you know, in its own heart-wrenching manner, I want people to be able to come into the venue and get this sense of letting go of whatever pain they might have and being able to laugh about the pain as well. And I hope that in me being able to laugh and smile about the suffering, the personal suffering I might have thought I was going through when I wrote those songs, hopefully it'll make people smile and laugh and, you know, make us all focus on the good things that we can share.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of smiling, let me pull this up. Can you explain this album, this magazine cover?
Well, that magazine cover was something that was set up by Roadrunner Records. I remember we got to France. Roadrunner Records set up a back in the day, labels, before there was internet and before there was everybody had cell phones, labels used to set up press days. So in other words, you go to your headquarter in whatever country you were in of your record label. And that day we went to the French headquarter of Roadrunner Records, and they set up press days. And this was part of a press day with Hard and Heavy, in which they had this idea. And I remember they came to us with this idea, like, all right, you guys are going to have half open shirts and you're going to have big hands on you, and you guys are going to be the Latin lovers. That's what they said. That's what they said to us. And I remember I was like in the middle of a tour, and both of us were like, is this really what you want? This is really what you want for the magazine and the label? And, you know, we went along with it. We were just like, okay, I guess this is cool. That's what we said to each other, you know? But, you know, it was definitely, we had to get conned into it a little bit. We weren't sure. And, you know, looking back now, I can at least laugh at it and say, hey, well, at least we did some stupid shit like that, you know, silly things. I don't want to call it stupid, but it's just funny and silly. And there really is no boundaries at that point. And, you know, at that time, we might have felt like, are you sure you want that? This is a little cheesy. And we felt a little cheesy about it. Now looking back, we could just smile and laugh and be like, look at how silly we were.
Well, it's also one of those things where you probably didn't expect it to get anywhere other than like France. So, but, you know, kind of pre-internet, you know, me.
Yeah, well, only French people will see this. That's fine.
Like no one will ever see that. So it's like those actors that used to do, you know, commercials for Coke and, you know, weird countries. Figure this now, you know, with the internet, we all.
No, it was definitely, it was a unique, press theme, I guess, you know. They wanted to sell magazines.
Well, it kind of, yeah, they sold a few. And it's funny, it kind of goes full circle with, you know, the Latin lover kind of thing with the new album. You know, you're kind of a Latin lover on this one, so there you go.
Well, I mean, you know, the songs are really about obstacles, man.
Yeah.
Life obstacles that I've been through. That, you know, I don't want to like push my life on anybody, but unfortunately, the only kind of music I've known is to write about life. You know, I don't think I threw anybody under the bus in my album, but it's about a lot of personal family things and, you know, respect for family. It's about loss of family and having to accept that. It's about having kids and the fear of the world and, you know, wishing I could see my kids more and things like that. You know, it's about a lot of life challenges that I think most people can relate to, but it's really all I've known. You know, I've tried before to like write songs about politics or, you know, something else, and it's just, I never feel genuine within it. I've done it and then I go, yeah, okay, I like it for the moment, and then 2 years later I go, it's not even me. I don't even know what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's the exact reason I stepped away from touring was my kids. There was nothing worse than being in 20 states away and the phones ring in and can't get no nobody can watch the kids and blah 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 and I'm out there just goofing off in a band, so I'm like, I gotta go home. I just gotta go home.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's tough. The toughest thing I've ever done was going on tour when my kid was born. And I knew that I had just spent 3 months with her every single day. I was as involved as a dad could be. I mean, I was in my kid's face every single day, And when I went away, I definitely felt like it rips a hole out of your heart when you can't see your kid every day, I got used to it as the days went by. The pain became less and less, but you still feel empty,
Yeah. And I think with like things like FaceTime and Skype and everything else, I think it might be a little bit easier. But obviously back when I stopped, it was like 07, 08. So it was barely cell phones at the time.
It's all during those years. It was complicated. If you had family, dude, forget about it. Sure. I mean, relationships would end within a matter of 2 days because like a girlfriend can't get in touch with you. And then she's like, dumping you because there is no way to reach people when you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, phone cards and pay phones and truck stops and it was a mess, man.
Fuck, did you lose me? Okay, hold
on.
Let me. Alexa, shut off. Go try that.
Yeah. Well, cool. I was actually.
Isn't it great technology? Isn't
I know.
Great technology?
Yeah, it's an insane technology.
She's actually recording. She's recording the interview for us right now.
Oh, nice.
She's going to
send the file over. Can she edit it for me too?
She'll edit it for
you. That'll be the day. Well, Cristian, man, I'm gonna wrap it up on this, man. The new album's out September 25th. Hollywood E Sycamore. And man, it was a pleasure having you on. It was a pleasure listening to the album over the last few days and just getting really deep into it, man. It was really great to talk to you.
Thank you for having me on, man. And thank you for giving the album a spin. And September 25th, if anybody's out there, go check it out. You could find me, Cristian Machado. I think I might be the only guy with that name playing songs. I'm not sure, but find me. Thank you.
I do believe so. All right, man. Thank you.
Right on, man. Have a good one.
You too. See ya.